30. Devotional Thoughts for Women, written by Monica Diaz, read by Belinda Sainsbury. Good morning, dear friends. Today, July 24th, our devotional is entitled Today More Than Ever. In those dry and gloomy days, Hannah stood out as a ray of light. John MacArthur. There is a detail in Hannah's story that we tend to overlook, which I consider to have great depth and relevance for us today. It's found in 1 Samuel chapter 1 and verse 3, which reads, Each year, Elkanah would travel to Shiloh to worship and sacrifice to the Lord of Heaven's army at the tabernacle. The priests of the Lord at that time were the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas. These unfaithful priests also transgressed God's law and dishonored their sacred office by their vile and degrading practices. Many of the people, filled with indignation at the corrupt course of Hophni and Phinehas, ceased to come up to the appointed place of worship. As you can see, the sons of Eli were scoundrels who had no respect for the Lord or for their duties as priests. 1 Samuel 2:12 and 13. They had set up a mafia of sorts, and people were aware of it. Hence, many of them ceased to go to the temple to worship God. Many, but not Hannah. In that cultural context of spiritual decadence, Hannah is presented to us as a woman whose commitment to the Lord and whose worship and prayer habits were rooted in something much more solid than the behavior of the religious leaders of that time. Hannah shines like a ray of light that in the midst of a cold, corrupt, cynical church context, exemplified through spiritual commitment to God. No wonder she was also a faithful wife and self-sacrificing mother. Her relationship with the Lord gave her a vision that allowed her to look beyond certain hardships and placed her motivation very far from the prevalent selfishness. Sometimes, when we see selfishness, deceit, hypocrisy, politics, or downright corruption triumph around us, we are tempted to allow the surrounding culture to dim our light. When we see irreverence, sarcasm, cynicism, or lack of commitment, even on the part of certain church leaders, we are discouraged from attending church. We grow bitter and give up the habit of meeting together. With it, we also lose the blessing of encouraging one another and exerting an influence for good in our sphere. Hannah's example is a source of inspiration today more than ever. Let us not give up the habit of meeting together as some are doing. Instead, let us encourage one another all the more. Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 25.